Sports wouldn't be the same without the best and most dominant athletes. In some cases, they just stopped caring about playing the game anymore. In other cases, these athletes were forced to leave before they were ready because they were hurt. It's always hard for the sports world to lose them before we're ready for that to happen. In this video, we'll talk about some of the best athletes who retired way too soon. First off, Bjorn Borg in tennis. In 1972, Bjorn Borg showed up on the world tennis scene. At the Davis Cup, the Swede won both of his singles matches, which made people take notice right away. He quickly moved up the tennis rankings and became the next big star. One of the best tennis players of his time had had enough after 9 years. Sadly, the 26-year-old left the scene even faster than he'd arrived. He didn't show up again with the tennis racket in his hand until he was 35, and he didn't say much to explain it. What went wrong? Well, after Borg beat McEnroe at Wimbledon, he managed to beat Borg in their next 3 Grand Slam matches. In 1983, when the Swede lost in the final of the US Open, he was getting more and more upset. He stopped playing tennis in a hurry. It was a weird moment for sports. A famous player just got off the court, skipped the press, and went straight to the airport. Up next, Sandy Koufax in baseball. Sandy Koufax, who was the best pitcher in the Los Angeles Dodgers, gave up baseball on November 18, 1966. He was only 30, and after a great season in which he led the Dodgers to the National League pennant and won his 3rd Cy Young Award, he decided to retire. Why? Well, because he had arthritis in his pitching arm, and he was afraid that if he kept playing baseball, he wouldn't be able to use his left hand at all. In 1955, when the Dodgers were still in Brooklyn, Koufax joined the major leagues. At the beginning of his career, he didn't do much for the Bums. He had a strong arm, but he didn't have much control over his pitches. After the team moved to Los Angeles, Koufax started to calm down and throw much more consistently. In a game against the Giants in 1959, he struck out 18 batters, which tied the major league record. The next year, he only won 8 games, but he struck out 197 batters in 175 innings, which was a major league record. Followed by Patrick Willis from the NFL. Patrick Willis was a gladiator on the football field. On Tuesday, when he stepped up to the podium for the last time as a San Francisco 49er, he had to fight back the tears. But Willis's farewell press conference wasn't mostly about sadness. Yes, the 7-time Pro Bowler seemed to find it hard to say goodbye to football, but when he started to talk, he seemed to feel calm and happy. He showed these feelings by grinning from ear to ear, even though his eyes were still red. So here I am, standing in front of you guys today, not as a perfect man, but as an honest one. I have no regrets. He quit professional football after 8 great years and 7 trips to the Pro Bowl. But he said that at age 30, his body, and especially his feet, couldn't keep up with the demands of the NFL. Because of the same things that helped him become a star, he had to leave the game in the end. Moving on to Bo Jackson in baseball and football. Some people think that Jackson was the best athlete ever in any sport. He was really good, he was good at both, and he could do both. Jackson had to have surgery and get better after injuring his hip. He missed the whole baseball season of 1992. Many experts said that Bo would never be able to play professional baseball again. Even he knew that his time on the football field was over. But he kept going for a while longer in baseball before he finally quit. During his time in the NFL, he averaged 5.4 yards per carry and scored 16 touchdowns. The two-sports star also did well in Major League Baseball. Jackson played for the Kansas City Royals, the Chicago White Sox, and the Los Angeles Dodgers. That's not all, though. He also hit .250 with 141 home runs and 415 RBI and was the MVP of the 1989 MLB All-Star Game. Next, Michael Jordan in basketball. Most players agree that Jordan will go down in history as the best player ever to play the game. He won 6 championships and won them twice in a row. He won 3 straight titles and averaged more than 30 points per game for 7 straight years before he retired in 1993. He took a year off before returning to the Bulls for 4 more years and winning 3 more championships. Then in 1999, he went back into retirement. He came back in 2001. If he hadn't been away for those 4 years, he might have gotten 10 rings. Jordan left during a year in which he had more personal success and tragedy than ever before. He led the Bulls to their 3rd NBA title until tragedy struck. His father was shot and killed in North Carolina. He made more than $50 million yearly from his salary, endorsements, and other income. Oh, and there were also rumors that he gambled too much. But let's be real, his fame grew far beyond Chicago and the NBA because of how well he played and how many products he endorsed, from sneakers to hot dogs. He's even the most famous person in China after Mao Zedong. This is true even though basketball isn't even the most popular sport there. Not to mention Calvin Johnson in football. From 2007 until 2015, Calvin Johnson was one of the best receivers in the NFL. He was one of the Lions' most reliable players in their history, and he even gave them a dynamic threat to make plays that they'd been missing since Barry Sanders left. He was one of the brightest stars in the league. He set many receiving records in the NFL and led the league in receiving yards in back-to-back years, 2011 and 2012, when he was at the top of his game. Even in his last season, he had more than 1,200 yards and 9 touchdowns. But Johnson quit before most people thought he would. He played until he was 29 years old, and then he rode off into the sunset. Since then, he hasn't been in the news as much as he used to, and he doesn't get along well with the Lions. Let's learn more about Brandon Roy in basketball. Roy made 3 NBA All-Star teams by the time he was 25. 2 years later, he quit his job. Even though he came back for 5 games in 2012, the former Portland Trailblazers star really only played in the NBA for 5 seasons before a bone-on-bone knee condition ended what could have been a Hall of Fame career. He was one of the best scorers in the league, and his game as a whole earned him the respect of his peers and teammates. Even Kobe Bryant liked how hard he tried to win and how competitive he was. Roy quit the NBA after 6 surgeries and no cartilage. His doctor told him that if he kept playing, he might not be able to walk. His playing days were over even though he just signed a lucrative 4-year contract extension a few years before. In 2016, the former Trailblazer star switched to coaching. Coming up, Jim Brown and the NFL. Jim Brown quit the NFL after the 1965 season as the all-time leader in rushing yards. If he hadn't quit at the age of 29, he'd probably still be number 1 today. When he first joined the NFL, teams only played 12 games. In his last 3 seasons, when NFL teams played 14 games, he averaged 1,617 yards yearly. Still, Brown ran for 12,312 yards and scored 106 touchdowns. He also caught passes 262 times and scored 20 touchdowns. Emmitt Smith, a great running back for the Dallas Cowboys, played almost twice as many games as Brown on his way to setting the NFL record of 18,355 yards on the ground. Next, Andrew Luck in football. Since being picked first in the NFL draft in 2012 and taking over for Hall of Famer Peyton Manning, Luck's played in 4 Pro Bowls. In just his 3rd NFL season, the star quarterback led the league in passing touchdowns. He also became the first quarterback in NFL history to throw for at least 370 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a completion rate of at least 70% in 2 straight games. Luck was named Comeback Player of the Year and chosen to play in his 4th Pro Bowl because of his success. But because of his injuries, Luck quit before the 2019 season. In 2022, he was put in the College Football Hall of Fame. Finally, Barry Sanders in football. The sports world will remember this as one of the most shocking retirement announcements ever. In 1999, not long after Sanders turned 31, he said he was leaving the NFL. The Detroit Lions star had the most seasons with at least 1,100 rushing yards and the most seasons with at least 1,000 rushing yards in a row. Safe to say that no one was prepared to hear the news, and frankly, it's still one of those that will tug at your heartstrings when you think about it. And on that note, that's a wrap for this video. Where do you think these athletes would be today if they hadn't retired early? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.